So, okay, am I muted now? All right, sorry about that. I don't know why it came up muted, but it came up muted. So today we're going to be talking about two diseases that are on the rise in our nation and what contributes to that. So we're going to be talking about cancer and diabetes and how we can mitigate our risks of that. Now, there is a genetic component, but there is also an environmental component. And the environmental component, sadly to say, is a lot of what we are eating. So I read a report this week that my husband sent me, and it was from a scientist who used to work for Kellogg's and I think Pepsi and some other processed food companies. And he said that he quit working for those companies, but while he was there, he was a food designer. And it was a job that he had to make food addictive and to make it, you could never get enough of it. So not only did you have to have it, but you had to have a lot of it. And he said that the way that you do that, it has to have the perfect combination of both fats and carbs. So it was very interesting to read that he said his job was to make packaged foods, processed foods, addictive and insatiable. Means that they would not, you could not get enough of them. So that was pretty powerful, I thought. And so I thought about my own eating habits, which I'm pretty good at times. I thought about that famous potato chip commercial where it says no one can eat just one, I think is what it is. And then when you listen to this scientist and he says, I made those foods, I designed those foods, and they are addictive and they are such that you just are never satisfied. So you have them more and more and more, which what does that do? It contributes to the obesity situation that we have here in the United States. I also read another report from another scientist who said that he quit eating all processed foods and he lost 30 pounds just because he quit eating all the junk, the preservatives and all that kind of stuff in our food. So this is going to be talking about that, but also putting it in the context of what these foods do to our bodies and how it turns on cancer and it turns on the mechanisms that cause us to have diabetes. So for me, I don't want to have diabetes, and I certainly don't want to have cancer. It's not something that I'm looking forward to. It's not something that I'm believing for. However, what we have in our pantry and what we choose to eat will go a long way toward preventing that or actually causing that. So I want to give you this information today because I think it's very, very powerful. Knowledge is power, and when we can make better choices, when we know more, we can do better. So that's what this is all about today. We've all heard that cancer is fed by sugar. So I think it's very interesting that if you go to most oncologists' office, now an oncologist is a medical doctor that deals with cancer, but if you go to most of their offices, on their table, they're going to have a candy dish full of candy, and they encourage their patients to enjoy the candy. Well, yes, because sugar feeds cancer. Now, they may not know this as far as objectively know this, but when they do a PET scan, what do? A PET scan looks in your body to find where cancer has metastasized or if you have cancer. What do they do before they take that test? They give you I'm not sure if it's an infusion of glucose or if they make you drink glucose, but the point is that they know that cancer is going to gobble up that sugar. I think it's 200 times more quickly than any other healthy cell. And so when they give you this glucose and then they do the PET scan, they can see where the sugar goes, and that's where the cancer is. So they know, they may not be, cognitively making that connection that, oh, sugar feeds cancer, but it does. And so we want to look at what we're doing and why. There's a new report that just came out in Cell, the magazine Cell, in April, this past April, that uncovers a new mechanism linking uncontrolled blood sugar and poor diet with cancer risk. Now, the research was performed by the National University of Singapore's Cancer Science Institute of Singapore, and there were two professors that did this study. They both work at the University of Singapore, and they found that a chemical released when the body breaks down sugar also suppresses the gene expression that prevents tumor formation. So let me tell you in a different way. We have genes that prevent tumors from forming. When we eat sugar, we turn off that gene. I don't want to turn off that gene, and I know you don't want to turn off that gene either. So this discovery provides valuable insight into how our dietary habits can impact our risk of developing cancer or diabetes. And so it's really important that we understand this. Now, it was previously believed that the cancer-preventing genes must be permanently deactivated before cancer tumors can manifest, before they can grow. However, this recent discovery suggests that a chemical called methylglyoxal, okay, they call it MGO for short, methylglyoxal, you can Google that, but this particular chemical is released whenever the body breaks down glucose, and it temporarily switches off the cancer protection mechanisms. So this is important because if we're eating sugar, then we are turning off cancer protective mechanisms. Now, am I saying you can never have a piece of cake? No, I'm not saying that. Are you saying that you can never have a chocolate bar? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is be mindful of what you're eating and understand that every time you do indulge in that, you are turning off your body's natural defenses for cancer protection. So Mr. Kong, he was an author of the study, said, and this is a quote, "It has been shown that diabetic and obese individuals have a higher risk of cancer, posing as a significant societal risk. Yet the exact cause remains debatable. Our study now unearthed a clue that may explain the connection between cancer risk and diet, as well as common diseases like diabetes, which arise from poor diets. We found that an endogenously synthetic metabolite can cause failure of our DNA, and that are clearly early warning signs of cancer development by inhibiting a cancer-preventing gene known as BRCA2. Now, when I read this report, that triggered something in my memory, because we know that women all over the world are tested for this gene because it is correlated with breast cancer. So I was not connecting the dots correctly. I thought if you have this gene that you would get breast cancer, and that's not what it is. If you have this gene and this gene is broken, then you're going to be more at risk for breast cancer. So I'll make it a little bit plainer here. So the BRCA2 is a gene that repairs DNA and helps make a protein that suppresses tumor growth and cancer cell proliferation. A BRCA2 gene mutation is associated primarily with a higher risk of developing breast and ovarian cancers, as well as other cancers. Those with a faulty copy of the BRCA2 gene are particularly susceptible to DNA damage from the methylglyoxal chemical that we make, okay? So listen to that again. If you have the broken gene, it's not doing its job properly, and you eat a lot of sugar, you're going to increase your chances of developing breast or ovarian cancer. So this is really, really important. I don't know that I understood exactly that particular gene. Now, we do know that if you're overweight, you are if you're overweight, you're twice as likely to become obese than a normal sized person. Well, that kind of just goes through that. You also are twice as likely to become a diabetic. So that's important. If you are a diabetic, you are 4 times more likely to become a cancer patient. So weight is a big deal. And I'm not saying it's a big deal because of the way we look, but when we're having those extra fat cells or those full fat cells, they're full of toxic material that your body can't deal with. And so you're using the energy that you would be using to heal to manage that. And so that makes your immune system very ineffective when it comes to ridding it of a potentially rogue cell, which is what cancer is. Cancer is rogue cells. They do not have the kill switch on them that our regular cells do. Our cells grow, they reach maturity, they die, they're gobbled up, they're replaced. A cancer cell does not do that. So if we do have the BRCA2 gene and it is broken, all right, it does not repair the DNA. And if we have that MGO molecule in our body, then we are increasing our cancer risk, and we don't want to do that. So they found that the study showed that those without a predisposition to cancer also face an increased risk to developing the disease from elevated MGO levels. The study found that chronically elevated blood sugar levels can result in compounded increase in cancer risk. So do a fun little Google search on what compound interest will do for your savings. If you haven't done that, it's like mind blowing, because just a little bit of money over time can turn into a fortune. So it works in the opposite way too. If you have uncontrolled blood sugar, it can compound and turn into diabetes, which can turn into cancer. Even if you don't have the gene issue, even if you don't have a family history of breast cancer. So this is really important. You don't want to have that compound increase. This study shows that the impact of the methylglyoxal in inhibiting the function of tumor suppressors, such as the BRCA2, suggesting that repeated episodes of poor diet or uncontrolled diabetes adds up over time to increased cancer risk. So I don't know anybody that wants to have that. And everybody that I know is trying to mitigate those risk factors. And so one of the things that we can do is improve our diet. So this MGO is a metabolite of glucose. It is a byproduct made when our cells break down sugar, either glucose or fructose, all right, which creates energy. Now, MGO is capable of temporarily destroying the BRCA2 protein, leading to lower levels of that protein in the cells, and it inhibits the cell's ability to prevent tumor formation. The more sugar your body needs to break down, the higher the levels of this chemical, the higher your risk of developing a malignant tumor. So if that doesn't make you want to go clean out your pantry, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, my pantry's pretty clean, and that doesn't mean we don't have sweets. We do have sweets from time to time, but we do not overindulge, and we're pretty mindful when we do eat that. So the accumulation of this methylglyoxal is found in cancer cells undergoing active metabolism. So what is this chemical? It is a byproduct of the body's breakdown of glucose and fructose. So fructose comes from fruits and vegetables. Glucose comes from the other foods. And then you've got high fructose corn syrup, which is in every single processed food. Maybe not every single, maybe it's a little bit over exaggeration, but it's not too far off. If you do any kind of processed food, you've got that high fructose corn syrup. They're calling it something else now. Anyway, it's one of the ingredients. Usually it's at the top of the ingredient because it is one of the things that makes the food irresistible. And so we don't want to have that in our body. But the more we have that, the cancer cells take that and it helps them with their metabolism. And we certainly don't want to give cancer cells anything to work with. And this is why if you have cancer, you want to starve the cancer by refusing to eat anything that turns to sugar in your body. So that would be the obvious things like cake and pastry and all that kind of stuff. But it would also be things that turn to sugar like bread and pasta and high glycemic index vegetables. So all of that turns to sugar. And cancer doesn't care where the sugar comes from. If it comes from a peach or if it comes from, the yeast bread or whatever, it doesn't care. All it cares is that is its nourishment. And when you stop eating those kind of things, then your body starves the cancer. And that's a really good way to get a handle on it if this is something that you are facing. So the researcher says that people whose diet is poor may also experience higher than normal levels of methylglyoxal. The connections we unearthed may help explain why diabetes, obesity, and poor diet heighten cancer risk. And I just gave you the statistics a while ago. MGO is challenging to measure on its own. Early detection of the levels is possible with a routine A1C blood test. Now, this is really interesting because when you do your regular blood test, you're going to get all your different metabolic panels, your lipid panel, your white blood cell, or your CBC with differential. So when you have all those, you're going to get your glucose, whatever it is, at that time that you went and had your blood test. Hopefully you were fasting. All right, but that number needs to be below 100. And in fact, they're even wanting it to be lower than that now. But it used to be the gold standard was that it had to be under 100. There's another test that is not as routinely recommended, which is your A1C. Now, your A1C is the test that is the average of your blood sugar over a 90-day period. So if your A1C is out of balance, then you are either hypoglycemic or you are pre-diabetic or diabetic. Blood sugar is something that is very easily controlled with diet. Now, there are a few individuals that their pancreas is just broken. It is just really, really broken and they need medical support. But most people, especially type 2 people, it is their eating habits. It is the food choices that they make. It does take a lot of discipline to reverse this, but it is possible. We see it all the time. And if you know that having uncontrolled blood sugar heightens your risk of cancer, why wouldn't you want to mitigate that? So the A1C is used to diagnose diabetes. So an A1C that is too high, and I think the reference range now is like 4.4 to 5.7. So if you're in that range, you're good. If you're not in that range, then you've got some issues. But they're saying, these scientists are saying that if your A1C is out of whack, then you are a high candidate for the progression of cancer. So this is another piece of information that is very, very valuable because when we look at our blood work, a lot of us, and I see it all the time with people that come in to see me, I'll say, well, what does your blood work say? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, the doctor just tells me it looks okay and that's all right. That's not good enough, people. We need to know, not me necessarily, but I'm happy to look at it for you. But you as an individual need to know what your levels are and all the different things and how to get them back into optimum. Now, this week I had a friend come over with some blood work and we went through line by line. This is what optimum is for this. This is what optimum is for this. And even though there was nothing in a quote unquote disease process, she was tending to go into a disease process. And so that's what we're all about here at Abundant Health and Wellness, is getting your body to return to a healthy state. And if you're trending towards sickness and disease, we want to reverse that. And it's a whole lot easier and a whole lot less expensive if we do that before you get over there into the disease process. So the A1C is a marker that you can have in your blood work to see what your sugar consumption is and are you headed down that road toward cancer. The scientist continues, in patients with prediabetes or diabetes, high methylglyoxal levels can usually be controlled with diet and exercise. We aim to propose the same for families with high risks of cancer, such as those with the BRCA2 mutation. It is important to notice that our work is carried out in cellular models, so it's not gone to real-time humans yet. However, we do know it has been proven that cancer is fed by sugar. Now, the poor diet, poor nutrition, right, is usually very, very high in sugar. It's high in that high fructose corn syrup, refined carbohydrates. We know that that causes your blood sugar to spike. They're now looking at people that have that kind of a diet. They're looking at their cancer risk. Now, Dr. Graham Simpson, who is the medical director of Opt Health, he says genes load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. And what that means is you may be genetically predisposed to cancer or diabetes or whatever we're talking about, but your lifestyle is what actually pushes that gene into manifestation. And so this is really, really important. It is a science known as epigenetics. So there's genetics, what you're born with, the chromosomes and all that kind of stuff. And then there's epigenetics. Epigenetics is how you live your life, what you eat, what you drink, how you think, how much drama you allow into your life, all those kind of things. So every bite of food you take is really information. This is that same doctor. He said it's either going to turn on your longevity genes or it's going to turn on your killer genes. So cancer is very much a large part self-induced through diet. Now, I know that was a harsh statement, and anybody with cancer is going to be all like up in my business about saying self-induced. I didn't say that. Dr. Graham Simpson, who's the medical director of this hospital, he says that. And so we need to really take responsibility for what we're eating. And really, I think our government needs to take responsibility for what they're allowing to be put into our foods, because really the government is very culpable in this because of what they allow. There are quite a few food additives that are not allowed in Europe. They're not allowed in other developed countries because of the toxicity, but because of our lobbying situation, money is exchanged for approval, and so we have all these nasty additives, and you can Google all that. I don't have enough time in the day to go over all of that with you. In a 2018 study published in the Cambridge University Press, found an association between higher intakes of sugar-sweetened soft drinks and an increased risk of obesity-related cancers. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2020 concluded that sugar may be a risk factor for cancers, breast cancer in particular. Cancer cells are ravenous for sugar, consuming it at a rate of 200 times that of normal cells. All right, so there's a lot of information here. So we need to look at what the food is doing to our cells and what we need for food to do with our cells. So this Dr. Simpson, who's this medical director, he stresses the importance of real food and healthy macronutrients with a low carb intake for the health of our cells. And this is a quote: "The mitochondria is the most important signaling molecule and energy producing organelle that we have in our bodies. Eat a lot of vegetables." So just want to talk to you about that because we have this beautiful supplement that I do take, and it is called Age Lock Youth. Now remember what he said earlier. Your food is going to turn on your longevity, right? You're going to live long and you're going to live strong and healthy, or it's going to turn on the killer genes. We don't want to turn on the killer genes, and it's all in the mitochondria. So this is a beautiful vitamin that we have. It's called Age Lock Youth, okay? It is absolutely beautiful. It is my favorite color. I don't know if you can see. There you go. Lost one. They're a little purple. They're not big. You know, they're not small, but they're not huge. And you take 2 of these twice a day. And what does this do? It helps your mitochondria. Now, your mitochondria is the energy portion of your cell. And the doctor said here that the mitochondria is what keeps you healthy. So this mitochondria, it promotes youthfulness at the cellular level. So we know that people that are young very rarely are sick, and they very rarely have cancer. Cancer is a more mature person's disease, and that is because we've let ourselves go. That is because we have more and more years of very poor eating, and it ruins the mitochondria. So this particular product promotes youthfulness. It supports youthful aging. It helps your DNA. It protects and repairs at the cellular level. So that methylglyoxal, what does it do? It stops that repair process. It turns off the tumor suppression part of your cells. This product, Youth, causes your mitochondria to work in a way that keeps your cell young and keeps your cell working like a young person so that you're able to overcome. And I'm not saying that this is an okay, yes, I'm going to sanction you going and eating sugar. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you want to protect your genes, if you want to protect your DNA, if you want to protect your mitochondria so that you can overcome all these challenges, then this would be a really good product for you because it works on the mitochondria of the cell. It balances healthy cellular response. The disruption of cellular response can spark a cascade of other aging effects. It supports DNA damage, protection, and repair, and it provides antioxidant protection. Now, what is antioxidant protection? Well, that's a good question. We have this, and I've shown you this before. It is a Pharmanex PS3 scanner. We've got a laser right here. We put the heel of your hand right here. You just wrap it around the device, and it measures the antioxidant level in your skin. So this is a real-time person, right? This is her antioxidant level. Your antioxidant level, your body uses antioxidants to stop free radical damage, which is what cancer is, stops diabetes. Free radical damage is what diabetes is, and it improves your immune system. So we want to be over here in the purple. Most people that come to see me, they're in the red. Why is that? It is because our food is not at the level that it needs to be. And because it's not at that level, we do not have the polyphenols, we do not have the antioxidants, and so our body doesn't have what it needs to repair all the things that it needs to. Well, this little beauty is, it contains all of that in there. And in fact, I don't know if you can see, but this little icon right here says that it is a Scanner Score certified product. Dr. Polly, what does that mean? Well, that means if you came and saw me and you were here in the red and you took this Youth for 90 days, if you did not move forward toward the purple, the company would give you all your money back, right? That has never happened. That has just never happened. In all the years, it's just never happened. But that is their guarantee. It is the only supplement company that I know that guarantees their products that they are working. And the scanner is what measures it. It's objective. It's not subjective. It's not something that I'm going to say, oh, this is working. This is something that your body actually is producing more antioxidants, so we know that your anti-aging is turned on. Everybody should want to do anti-aging, right? Because there's no point in getting older if we get decrepit, right? That's not what I want to do. I feel like I'm about 20 years old. I know I don't look like it, but on the inside, I feel like it. And so I'm not afraid of aging because I do this. I do a lot of other stuff too, but I do a lot of anti-aging, both cosmetically and also internally, because it doesn't do me any good to live long if I don't look good. I mean, that's not good. And if I don't feel good. So these are the things that I help people in the clinic. I help them feel better, look better, and even some of them I help them make more money. And so those are kind of things that I like to do in my community. And so this is a pamphlet that goes with this, and it's got all the things in there. So it enhances your brain health, your heart health, your metabolic health. So if obesity is something that you struggle with, this might be a good supplement for you. Your skin health, your bone health, your joint health, your eye health, your physical performance, so your stamina, and also your immunity. So when we're talking about our situation, our body, our cellular, the way our body combats all of the assaults that we get, the biggest thing is changing our diet, changing our food. Don't just cut out the sugary things. Do that for sure. Do that. But also do something else that's going to cause your body to respond the way your body is supposed to, reignite that mitochondria, because your mitochondria is the engine of your cell. And we know as we age, we get slower, right? We see that with older people, they walk slower, they move slower, they talk more slowly. That's because their mitochondria is like not at peak performance. We want to have at peak performance, which is why we want to do all of the anti-aging stuff, both skin and on the inside, because your inside determines what your outside looks like. And so that's really, really important. Nobody's going to stay looking like they're 20 forever. We're just not going to. That's just not how it works. But if we have the right nutrition, we can stay younger looking on the outside longer, but we can also prevent the misfolding of proteins, which happens as we age, and that is where we get sickness and disease from. And so there's just a lot of things to consider, but two things that we can do really, really easily: be mindful of what we're eating and purchase really good supplements that help with the anti-aging process, so that we can put the best face forward, we can put the best, physical person out there that we can do, because we're not sickly and we're not battling these kind of diseases like diabetes and cancer. So I know that was a lot. I didn't even get through all of my notes today. However, I think I've given you a lot to think about. You have the power. You have the power to get your body to where your body needs to be, and I can help. So be sure and like the video, comment, share, do all the things that help Facebook and YouTube know that we're doing a good job here and we're providing value. I certainly am going to continue what I'm doing, because we all have sugar from time to time, right? All of us do. And so we want to make sure that we're able to mitigate that damage of that methylglyoxal chemical that is going to suppress the tumor suppression genes, and we don't want to do that. So it is the weekend. Take care of yourself. Do some Googling on some of the things that we talked about today, so that you can know what food additives you're regularly consuming and how they're banned in other countries and they're not banned here. And maybe you might want to join some grassroots groups and that kind of thing to get a more strong voice in Washington, because we definitely have people lobbying on that side. We need to have people lobbying on the good side too. So thank you guys for spending this time with me. I love you. I'm looking forward to the weekend, and I will see you back next Friday. Take care.